Hi Marcus, thank you so much for having us on farm out at your stock management area. Just a couple questions for you. When and why did you decide to develop a stock management area on your farm?
Thanks, Jess. Good to be here. I think we built this area probably 15 years ago, perhaps 12, 15 years ago. Predominantly or primarily it's used for weaning calves each year. So we wanted a area to feed calves in a contained type style. So yeah, we built a post and wire style yard there at that point, and we planted some trees. We put it next to our existing yards, just to make cattle handling easier, and then follow up any health treatments or weighing easier next to the yards. The trees are now grown, so we've got a bit of shelter, like sun and wind protection for the calves. So they're two sort of rectangular yards. We've got feeding at the one end down there, and we've got water and entry at the other end. One of the ideas is to take the water away from the feed so the feed doesn't end up in the water. We've probably improved them a bit over time. So we've put in rectangular troughs with a concrete plate under them, so to help to stop the animals sort of digging holes next to the trough. And those troughs came with a broom, so I can sweep them out clean regularly when the calves are in here, and they empty outside of the pen, like the water empties to the outside, so we don't create a bog on the inside. We've put in heavier wire. We do have an issue with young cat stock rushing the fences and breaking the fences. We've put in heavier wire, we've electrified it, which helps somewhat. We put in heavier gates, the initial gates got bent. We've put in more heavier posts. That's not bad. It does, but we still get issues with stock breaking the fence. Probably, we wean 450 calves a year, and there'll be some point that they'll break the fence each year. So it's not probably the right material, like post and wire, to make the fence out of. We feed at the bottoms of the slope in these pens. There's about a 2% slope through the yard, which is not the right end to feed at. So we get a bit of mud build up at the feeders. Gets pretty boggy. We put down rubber sheeting there to try and stop the cattle digging holes, which works, but we still get sort of dirt and silage build up on top of them, which it's not ideal. It's all right when it's dry, but once it rains, it's not great. We feed into hay rings, hay feeders over the fence. We've got a fork, a Tuscan bale grab for the tractor, where we can pick up the bale, hold it on the sides, cut the strings, retain the strings on the grab, and then put that bale over the fence without entering the yard and feed the stock that way. That works really well, not going into the calves. And we store the fodder close to where we feed it, so that's pretty simple. So feeding over the fence is good, but I suppose the other part of that, we feed bales, which I think the calves find a bit hard to tear apart. They do gnaw at it, and they do tend to eat through it eventually, but I think teasing the bale up would be probably a better option. Or even feeding chop silage, which we haven't done at this point. We went to do it last year, but because it was so damn wet, we couldn't get the heavy machine on the paddock, so we didn't. And can't, we've put a whole lot of baled silage underground, so we do have to allow for that use in the future. Probably there's about 1,500 bales underground, which will come in handy in a drought. But yeah, just probably need a better way of feeding them. So I think the biggest downfall at the moment is drainage, and probably the product that we're feeding is not that accessible for the calves.
Yeah. So you would probably say that the biggest pros of the current area have been that during those tougher times like drought, you've been able to put those weaners in here and those calves in here and ensure that they have adequate shade and access to water. But there is a few things like that drainage I think you want to improve on as well. Yeah.
So I think containing stock is a good idea, like before your grass starts growing. It helps to preserve ground cover and ultimately the soil, topsoil. I think the concept of containment feeding is good. I mean, that's pretty widely accepted. And this probably need to tweak how we do it a bit, which might mean rebuilding or building another set of yards for feeding potentially. That's sort of why I want to be part of this program, is to get some advice, what the next step is for me. So I've got some ideas, but I just need to bounce them off someone that perhaps has had a bit more broader experience than what I have had. I've looked around at a few different setups. Done a little bit of pellet feeding this year through self feeders, which seemed to work really well. Had the close feeders from Finley. We've bought a couple of those at the end of 2019. Just didn't use them then, but just used them this year, where the pellets blown in with a blower truck. Really simple. Calves took to it really well. We didn't have any health issues. We provided straw. There's a roughage source and an hay-ring in the yard as well. Cattle seem to eat that as well as the pellet. Whether that's perhaps another way that we go in the future too. We got smaller calves, a lighter calves to get them up in body weight before we hopefully start feeding the silage at a later point in the feeding cycle. Something we're considering too.
Can I ask, and I'm sorry I didn't prepare you for this question, how do you go about sort of talking about like that ground cover and trigger points and stuff and choosing when you transition your stock in and out? So this you use it for weaning, so you've kind of got a seasonal precursor that you sort of know that you're going to start calving, so that means X number of weeks down the line you're going to be starting to put them in. But from a drought preparedness perspective, sort of what are some key things that you look for in your paddocks and in your livestock to decide that you might put them in a bit earlier and start feeding them something a bit more serious, or leave them out a little bit longer and that sort of thing?
I suppose the technical trigger, if you want to let your fillet get to the 5-leaf stage before you start grazing it, then it's just a matter of how long you're prepared to feed in terms of time and cost, as to how much growth you allow in your fileras. And that's across the broader property. The calves, when they come out of here, typically they're going to go into some lucerne country that we've got, lucerne paddocks. So you want to have seen some growth. You want to perhaps accumulate that growth through the summer, or you've had a rain event and it's grown. And with cattle, it's safer once it's flowered. So you're perhaps wanting to let that lucerne get to the stage where it's flowered before you're grazing it. So that sort of dictates how long you might be feeding in a contained area. So that's probably the triggers that I look for. And of course we're only just talking about the calf portion of the herd.
Yeah.
There's also cows out there that need to be fed. Also in some sort of contained area, whether it's perhaps a sacrifice paddock or a smaller paddock that you're feeding as well.
Yeah.
So one of the things we tried to do here is a bit of dust suppression. So we've got, I think it's about 5 sprinklers in the pens that we can run when the stock are in here. We're capturing water off the roof of the yards, as well as we can bring it up from the bore actually, and we can pump it through the sprinklers with a firefighter pump, so that gives some dust suppression when they're in the yards. We perhaps could have more sprinklers and a bigger capacity pump to provide more water and more dust suppression. So that's got I think it's a 2-inch outlet. It's got a trough, same profile as the bottom of the trough. It's got a spike V in it. So I think that's good. And as you can see, it empties outside the pen. Keep the pen less foggy. And we've got a concrete pad which was craned into place when the trough came in the same crane truck, so that was really simple to install. And I think it's an 1.5 inch poly coming in, so we've got plenty of pressure, 1.5 inch valve. We've got plenty of fresh water. Yep. They do sell troughs which are called feedlot troughs, which are really long, like the same company, but the bigger they are, the more water you'll waste for the time you empty it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much so.
In the sheets, some of them have like PVC troughs on them.
Yes.
The wall and they just undo the end.
They just shoot straight through.
They've got very little water.
Yeah. In terms of easy use of it.
So it's simple, it's as an arm and it's protected. All my other troughs are round and the floats are exposed and occasionally have issues.
Yeah.
We try to use, most of them are on stainless steel chain now.
Yeah.
And the old rope style used to deteriorate and they'd come off occasionally, or the cover would break it or something. But with the chain it pretty much doesn't. Pretty good pressure.
Yeah, it's really good pressure.
When you've got so many stock, not a really huge trough, you need good pressure.
Yeah, you need that Armstrong, definitely.
I know cow drinks 100 litres a day. I'm not sure about a weaner, but they might drink 30 or 40 litres a day.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd imagine it'd still be a significant amount.
Yeah. So for us in a drought, like, water supply becomes one of the limiting factors.
Yeah.
Like, apart from having to buy feed potentially, or having feed stored on farm, but we've got a certain amount that comes out of a bore per second, and that ultimately is our limiting factor.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how many cattle we can run.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You don't have any issues with, like, you've got fairly good water quality from that bore?
Yeah, it's stock drinkable. Yeah. Yep, it's fine for stock. Comes out of the ground litre a second. So, yeah, I think I have to do the maths. I think it's about, and we've got a solar pump in with a diesel generator backup that we just installed about 3 months ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll have to do the maths to work out how much a day. I think it's 80 a day. It's about 50,000 litres a day.
Yeah, right.
You divide that by your consumption figure and you can work out how many cattle you can feed. It's for stock water and it's for the garden.
Yeah.
So got to keep the garden greens too.
Yeah, no,
that takes a hell of a lot of water in a drought.
Yeah. Did you prioritise certain animals? Like,
I did. I probably prioritised the wrong one. Looking back.
we've seen your old feeders.
Yep.
So what instigated you purchasing these ones here?
So I bought these late summer 2019, where we'd been through 2 years of dry period,
and I was looking for alternative ways to feed the stock. It ended up raining. I never used them then, but this year I chose to feed sort of the bottom 10% in weight of my calves, try and bring them up quicker and closer to the rest of the group. So these hold 6 tonne each. I think we bought 9 or 12 tonne. I think it was about 9 tonne we put through here, and we fed the calves. I think it was for a couple of months, and it worked really well. I took to the pellets really quickly. Didn't have health issues, which concerned about feeding a grain-based product. So yeah, and it was really simple in terms of we had a truck come and blow pellets in through that tube there. It's got a cam lock fitting on the end of it. So it took, I don't know, the truck was here for 20 minutes while we filled the 2 feeders up. That was really easy. Obviously hold pretty big volume. And we provided roughage source, which is just straw, which the calves, they always seem to have straw on their snout or on their back, so they must have been eating that as well, and you can see the hay being consumed. Yeah, we've got rubber down next to them again, so the cattle aren't digging through the soil. And probably, I suppose the one thing, the rubber, it can be a little bit slippery because it's sort of a hard, shiny surface initially. And it's just, I suppose it's, cattle can't get a lot of grip on it, so they can slip a little bit. It didn't get any injuries or anything. It's just something I noticed. And the drainage in this yard is probably a little bit better than those other ones we were in. This isn't quite at the bottom of the slope, so drainage here isn't as big an issue. Because with the cattle were here longer, I suppose, this year. So when it was wetter in autumn, and we didn't really have any bogging issues. Which probably might have also been that we're not dropping silage fibre over the yard as well, and it's just not at the bottom of the slope, so
yeah,
it just happens to work a bit better. Yeah.
All right.
And they're just like most feeders, they're adjustable. That slides up and down to give you the gap, and that determines how much pellet's going to come out. And I suppose I was over here daily initially, just make sure that slot's clear, because the saliva can gum up that slot with the pellet and a bit of dust, pellet dust. Could perhaps restrict the pellet coming through. So just running a piece of metal, flat metal through that, make sure that was clear. Just checking how much pellet was in the trough, just making sure it wasn't excessive, so we didn't get excessive consumption. Trying to avoid acidosis. Yeah. That thick rubber matting here, that's just to stop cattle wearing away the surface near the troughs. Jess asked me about why I went that instead of concrete. It's just simpler, I suppose, just to roll out, buy some rubber and roll it out. It's also portable if I want to move it, if I want to move the feeder and put it somewhere else. So yeah, I don't have a lot of labour, so anything that's lower labour is good. I suppose overall I need a low labour solution. It's generally myself or one other person for a day a week. So yeah, in a drought situation, like the labour is quite consistent. Like you have to be doing something. Well, you have to be making sure cattle got feed all the time. So it's got to be a low labour solution for me. Which, the pellets are that. It doesn't take long for a truck to come and fill some pellet feeders up. I don't have to be involved at all in that really. I just have to keep the roughage up to the pen. But obviously, yeah, we've got we could be paying a lot of money for those pellets in a drought situation. We've got silage that we've made on hand that's underground. We just need a better method of perhaps feeding that in a drought situation. This is a drafting unit. You can draft from the back of the truck.
Yeah.
A double gateway up there, cattle come in there. We can do some in-pen drafting there if we need to, through these yards a bit closer to us. And then if we want to put them through the race, they come through an arc here on the left. They come through a round yard, which gives us access out to those weaning pens or the paddock or into a calf race
here. When we're dealing with calves when they're young, we put them through there, like vaccination, castration, tagging. There's a little calf crush at the top there, which is really good. And adult cattle keep going around the arc and then through an S here. Your pretty typical Temple Grandin S style race. Yeah, it's a sheeted race, and then into a crush there at the top. And we've got a drafting module in front of that, so I can draft 3 ways, depending on gender or weight or whatever we're doing. And we've got a RFID tag scanner, like panel on the far side, and a head unit on this side, so we can see weights or health treatments or whatever we're doing. Yeah.